You got to realize when it comes to goals, you're going to be off course most of the time.
You expect it to be difficult every single day.
If you're struggling right now, that's good. Don't give up. Make some adjustments.
I can consistently do hard things and I can feel really good about it.
Our goals are going to be met through the little things that we do every day. Rather than willpower, I need to make it more difficult to turn on the TV. How bad do I want to watch TV? You got to leverage the slight edge. And that is how you get the goals, baby.
Welcome to the Armoury podcast, episode number 7. In our last episode, we gave you a proven method for setting solid goals. Now, in this episode, we're going to talk about the top 3 reasons why those goals may be going down the toilet. Maybe you're self-sabotaging. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So we're not even quite 2 weeks into the new year. And I know there's a lot of people that set goals or made resolutions coming into the new year. We're just barely into it, and we know there's already some going off track, or maybe even some goals that are already in the trash can. And we kind of have identified these top 3 categories that we think happen that make it so that people don't reach their goals, things that maybe they are doing or not doing. So the first one that we talked about was the idea of commitment and persistence. So you had a great analogy and actually something from your current life going on. So I'll let you tell about that.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right. You know, for the big 3 things in goals, it starts with the level of commitment that most of the time, if the resolutions or whatever are already going off track, it generally comes to this number one thing that we're covering. And what we were talking about, what you're mentioning, is that my commitment to ride my bicycle. This is Canada, by the way, all you viewers from, Japan and all over the world. Right. Through the winter time, I'm going to ride my bike down to the gym. Is a commitment I made to myself in the fall. After riding my bike all summer, all year, I decided, why stop here? I'm going to create a little bit of a challenge for myself, and I'm going to do my best to prepare. But the biggest part was just that commitment that I'm going to bike through the winter, no matter what. Right? And I've just, with this analogy, I've just noticed already when you set, that's a goal to bike all through the winter. That level of commitment needs to be there. We can say it's been pretty nice that we've had a pretty mild winter so far.
Yes, for this area, it's been mild.
Right,
so far.
But those days are now done. As you drove by when I was biking earlier at minus 18 or whatever it was, right? So I think what I've recognized the key is that internal commitment to what you're going to achieve out of the gates is going to trump your willpower or anything like that, right? You need to have that commitment, knowing that when I get up in the morning, there's no question, I'm on my bike. If you don't have that commitment, what happens is it gets cold or it gets uncomfortable, or you have some people laugh at you, like what I've had when I'm on my bike and they're in their cozy car. I have people that care about me that are like, please don't ride your bicycle. I hear you're still riding your bicycle. Like, you have a perfectly good car in the driveway. Like, I don't need to be doing this. Why would you do this? So you have people that don't understand. You've got all these different elements come at you. But at the end of the day, as I said this morning, I was still on my bike. And I've realized, why am I still on my bike? Because I've committed.
Because you've decided that you are a winter biker.
Yeah.
It's not that I want to be or I wish I could, or
Yes.
I'm going to try. You have decided.
Or to a certain temperature.
And it's going to hit well into the minus 30s this week. And it's funny because some of the students this morning in class were, well, do you think Matt will still ride his bike? And I said, I will guarantee Matt will be on his bike because I know you and I know your level of commitment.
Appreciate it.
But I think it's interesting, you brought up a couple of things that, first of all, you started biking, well, you biked all summer, you biked through the fall. you didn't decide yesterday that I think I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to be a winter biker and start when the weather's got miserable.
Yeah.
You started when it was much easier,
Mm-hmm.
and you built in those habits, and you
Mhm.
built in that identity, knowing that chances are at some point this winter it's going to get cold, but you didn't start when it was miserable. You started when your chances of success were much higher. And I think that's a really important thing for goal setting,
Mm-hmm.
is that you make a commitment to it at a level that you know you can succeed, and then build on that.
Yes, that is exactly what we're talking about with the the resolutions or the goals that are already kind of in the toilet, or people are putting them off for next year. Probably they tried to take on a commitment that was too big. Either it was out of what they were actually able to commit to, right? Or they didn't care enough about it to actually follow through on the commitment, right? And an analogy I came up with, just using my winter bike riding as an example, is I committed to riding my bike down to the gym through the winter. But I did not commit to doing it in my underwear.
Which I'm sure your wife is very happy about.
Yeah,
that would definitely get some looks, obviously, and probably some views on social media. But I mean, it really is that simple, right? I made a commitment that, though challenging, it's not that, there's some challenge there and there's going to be some discomfort. I know I can do it, right? But if I all of a sudden raise it to this unbelievable amount of commitment and discomfort that's way beyond anything that I've done before, and now I don't just have to bike down to the gym, I've got to do it in my underwear, and now it's minus 30, but it's like, this is what I've committed to, like, here we go, willpower, whatever the term could be that you try and use. I am going to find a reason to fail in that situation, and I'm going to find a reason to fail pretty quick.
Well, and you set a goal, but you made it attainable.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, I know there will be a lot of people over the past couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe since our last episode, that decided they were going to eat much healthier. And because we said that, to be specific, they decided, you know what, I'm cutting out all sugar. No sugar in my diet, zero, not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And how's that working for you? Just, not even quite 2 weeks into January. Or they've eliminated an entire food group. I'm going carb free because carbs are the reason that my whole life is gone down the toilet. So they've cut out an entire food group. They've made it so difficult. Instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to make sure that every time I have a meal or a snack that I prioritize lean protein.
Yes.
That might be attainable.
Yes.
But they've gone to the nutritional metaphorical biking in your underwear in the winter. They've just gone to this unattainable, unachievable, made it so hard for themselves, because leading up to that, it was probably the polar opposite of a nutrient dense diet. So I think that's really important, that point you brought up, that you started when it was not so difficult, and you didn't set a ridiculous standard for yourself. I mean, I personally wouldn't, think some people out there are probably thinking, well, just biking in the winter is a ridiculous standard. But you're going to prove them wrong. For you, it was not a ridiculous standard. Mm-hmm. So it was something that you knew you could do. Mm-hmm. So I think both of those have been very positive towards achieving.
Yes, and I mean, there's one thing on that, is that your goals should be your goals. If people want to think it's ridiculous to bike in the winter, that's totally up to them. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine, right? You can't let that take you off course, which is something we'll get to in number 2. But the other thing with going too extreme, or this massive commitment, is that not only if it makes sense, but it's like, it's at the point that maybe it's not even safe. You know what I mean? Biking in my underwear is no longer a fun challenge when I'm down at the hospital because I had a commitment, and they're talking about amputating limbs or hypothermia because I had made a commitment and it was minus 34, and I stripped down to the underwear and got biking. That's a problem, and people do this to themselves with nutrition as well. And with that example, that they when you do this extreme commitment out of the gates, you take it to a place where maybe it's not feasible, yes, but that it's not even safe to set a goal like that. You're actually taking goals, which should be a very positive thing, and you're taking yourself in a direction that is actually, not really where you want to go. Right. Which is, I think, is a big problem. So I think you start with something that's doable, but I think the last piece of this commitment and the perseverance is that you have to be prepared, right? You have to be prepared for some difficulty, even though you're making it doable. Using the analogy of the winter bike riding, right by the door, what do I have? I've got my winter boots, I've got gloves, I've got like a face masky warmer thing, a toque, I think that's the technical term.
That's the Latin. Face.
I've got my toque, I wear a hoodie, I've got a winter coat. Like, you know what I mean? I am prepared for, even though it's been fairly mild and now it's getting cold, I'm still prepared. It hasn't thrown me off my game. Like, whoa, what? It's Canada and it's cold in the wintertime. Like, I wasn't expecting this level of difficulty or discomfort. Now, it's still safe, I would say, for me to do it because, it's not going to be hypothermia or anything. It's going to be discomfort. Yeah, I'm cold on my bike, but a little bit of that in the right amount is what I'm trying to achieve, which bringing some discomfort into my life and showing I can follow through on my commitments, but not ridiculous commitments and not ones that I haven't prepared for the challenge.
Well, and I think going along with that is knowing when to change course, knowing when when a goal that you set no longer is serving you, that it is becoming dangerous. For example, a goal I had a while ago, that was probably 4 years ago, I wanted to be able to deadlift over 300 pounds. I wanted that 300 club. I was at 285. Yep. I could deadlift 285. And then, some knee issues started happening, not because of the weight training I was doing, just decades of things accumulating. And for me, now that goal, I could have said, well, I committed to it. I'm going to do it. And I probably would be in a pretty rough state right now. But just little things that were happening, talking to my coach, changed course a little bit. Decided, you know what, that goal no longer serves me. So I'm going to switch lanes. I'm going to change course. It doesn't mean I abandoned everything. Nope. I just changed the goals a little bit.
Focus more on the chin-ups.
Focusing on chin-ups.
I love those chin-ups.
I love those chin-ups.
A safer option for you.
A safer option, a better option, still empowering. So yes. I think it's important to know, and there might be a circumstance where you change your course.
Yes.
But you're not looking for that.
No.
You're not looking for a reason to not ride your bike. You're looking for every reason to keep riding.
Absolutely. That's a great example just of what your expectancy is, what you're looking for. Are you looking for excuses? We've talked about something like that, I think. Or are you looking for reasons, right? Because if you're not committed, you are going to find the excuses to go fire up that car and have it nice and toasty when you get to a certain point of discomfort, right? If you're not committed. So reasons or excuses. And I do think you're right. Again, just kind of maybe finishing with the biking example, things can happen in life too, where you have a goal for you. Okay, your knees, which have been a chronic issue for you in your life and different things with the deadlift. I mean, for me, maybe I get a flat tire, and I can't fix it right away. Like I got to adjust a little bit.
Ride that flat tire, coach.
Just keep riding, baby. I thought you had a goal. Let's get serious. Maybe I need to take my kids down to the gym with me, which I need to do sometimes, right? I don't bundle them up and put them on the handlebars. I drive the car. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like I'm failing my commitment because I've had to adjust for the odd scenario, right? Or maybe really worst case scenario, I get hit by a car or something. I don't want to do that, but it's like, okay, I definitely have to adjust my goal now. I'm not going to have like my leg in a cast and try and like pedal with one leg in the winter time. I'll really be getting some looks then, but I made a commitment. You know what I mean? Yeah. There is that level of, yes, commitment and persistence where you don't stop as soon as things get hard, but at the same time, you got to find ways, like your deadlift example, knowing that there are going to be adjustments that you have to make. That's a lot of the times possibly something that's out of your control, and you got to take that into consideration, right? Because otherwise, like I say, bottom line, you're using a goal, something that should supercharge your life and superpower you, and you're actually doing damage, and you're taking yourself the other way from success. So you got to be wise, as it's a little bit different for each and every one of us, what we're capable of, where we are currently at. But the idea is starting simpler, taking on challenge, being prepared, and being willing to adjust where necessary.
All right. So if somebody is very committed to their goal and they feel like they're prepared, they've got their metaphorical toque and face thingamajiggy, the Latin term again.
Yeah.
But then we identified another one that we see, especially in the fitness industry, that is very prevalent, and it has to do with the environment, what you surround yourself with. So let's go into that one a little bit.
Number 2 reason that people fail is that they change or they make a goal, and they change their goal and what they want to accomplish. They have a focus, but they don't change their environment. So they expect to achieve something completely different from what they have currently been getting, but to do it in the exact same environment that they are currently in. They want something different, but the same at the same time. And our goals will always fall victim to our environment, for better or for worse.
So give us an example on that one.
Example on the environment. I mean, we talk about something as simple as nutrition, weight type goals, and a good example is simply that saying you want to weigh a certain amount, let's say it would equal, dropping 20 pounds of fat. That's my goal, but my pantry and my fridge look exactly the same.
Exactly the same as before I set that goal, and I said I was committed to it, and I'm going to be persistent.
I'm buying the same things, but I'm just not going to eat them. They're for the kids or whatever other excuse you're going to come up with, right? Your environment is making it so now all of a sudden you think you're going to do it with willpower, because I'm going to have all this stuff around me, but I'm just not going to eat it. And you are absolutely lying to yourself.
Well, how'd that work for you in the past?
Yes, exactly.
All of that was there before, and you ate it. What makes you think it's not going to happen now?
Mm-hmm.
We do, especially the nutrition and this time of year in the fitness industry that we're in, we do hear a lot of that. The other thing that we'll hear is, I worked out 3 times this week, and I was pretty close with my nutritional choices. They were pretty good. So I deserve this. I deserve this. I earned it. Or it's such a habit. It's such a habit to just go and pick up that bag of chips, or we've talked before about how you'll never outperform your inner circle. Well, what's your inner circle of nutrition look like? What is your inner circle, your environmental inner circle look like? Not just nutrition, the people you surround yourself with. If you've committed to not getting drunk, let's say, are you hanging out with a crowd that's always getting drunk? How's that going to work for you? If you're committed to being a non-smoker and everybody that you hang out with all the time smokes, how's that going to work for you? So it's really important that your environment reflect your goals.
Absolutely, and that's very well put. And it's just this truth. The problem is, I think anyone listening could be like, yeah, that makes sense. But setting a goal, even making it a real one and putting it down on paper and writing it, is still easy compared to making changes to your environment.
Yes.
Because there's all these different types of pressures that come upon us then, like you talk about. Yes, your environment is your people, right? If you're gonna have these goals to be grateful and optimistic and different emotions you're gonna experience on a more regular level, but you hang around people that are nothing but pessimists, they complain, they talk about nothing but taxes and the government and their loser spouse or whatever it is, like, you know what I mean? Tell me how you are going to get those emotions going when anytime you're around your people environment, that's the type of energy that's coming your way. And with the habits, like obviously drinking and smoking are easy ones for sure. When you say again, you get into the willpower type game where I'm going to hang out with these people, this is my crowd, I'm just not going to drink. And for better or for worse, there's going to be all these pressures that are going to come on you, where you're going to have to make these you're gonna have to make these crazy decisions based on like willpower, and it's like not gonna do it, not gonna do it, not gonna do it. Whereas if you just didn't put yourself in that environment, now it's no longer even a thing, right? It's not even something you have to face. So we sabotage ourselves with our environment in the same way that we can support ourselves and support our goals with the environment. It will serve us, or it will lead to our destruction. We have to have the courage to step back to align our environment to the best of our abilities with what we say we want in life, and with who we say we want to be and what we want to do.
And I think that's I like that you brought up, being more positive, because it is really easy to fall into the trap when you're around people who start complaining to one up them. You complained about that. Tell you
I
about
got something for you here.
and you realize afterwards the ridiculous things that you brought up.
Yes.
Like maybe your spouse isn't perfect. Maybe you're not perfect, but man, you just had to find something to complain about because everybody else was complaining about their job, or whatever it was. It's so easy to fall into that trap. But if you don't, if we can all think of people who are very optimistic, not that there aren't serious things you can talk about, but we all know people that just exude that optimism and that positive energy. And wow, are they ever awesome to hang around with? You feel better when you hang around it. It's because they don't hang around with people that complain a lot.
Absolutely.
Because that isn't who they are. So I like that, that can be maybe a goal if somebody finds that they're falling into that trap. Well, then realize, number one, you can't be that person, and you can't hang around those people.
Absolutely. And another big one I think too is things like gossiping and talking about other people, right? In a negative way. And this is what your crowd does. It's maybe can be a hard standard to live by, but talking about people as if they're present. How is your conversation? How does that look like? And, I think that's another big thing where that's just what your crowd does. So you go around and whatever, you make fun or complain or have pokes and jabs, but then you expect to be, uplifted and experience all these other things. Like it doesn't work that way. It's just another major marker with your personal environment. But, beyond people, I would say one personal example on environment that I could give for myself and how it connects with goals is, I'm a reader, right? And you are as well.
I have seen a few hundred books.
Right. And my wife makes fun of me. I don't go anywhere without a book, right? There's a chance I might be able to fit in some reading. Is really my mindset in everything I do. So let's say I have a goal to read, pick a number, 30 books, 40 books in a year, right? But I also have a bit of a habit where I like to finish my days watching TV, right? And not like just like YouTube, hockey game highlights, stuff like that, right? And let's say 15 to 30 minutes, that's kind of what I end up doing. And then I go to bed and now I'm too tired. And because I did that, what do I not do?
You don't.
I don't read, right? So talking about your environment, what you have to do in that situation, if I'm really going to get serious about reading before bed instead of TV, is I need to make it more difficult to turn on the TV. Rather than willpower, I'm just not going to turn it on. I don't care who won the game or what that sort of thing. A simple thing I could do in my situation is get my wife to hide the remote. Right? And make a deal, like this is what I want to happen. Now, how much temptation do I have when I know I physically cannot turn on the TV? Right? If you live by yourself, maybe you got to take the TV out of the wall and put it in the closet somewhere. Then it's like, it's not saying you can't watch TV, but man, that's a lot more work. How bad do I want to watch TV?
So you're saying you make it more convenient to reach your goals by making it very inconvenient to be distracted
by the things that are taking you away from your goals, right? And just think, on the third point that we're going to get to here, this kind of maybe would be a good way to bridge into it, is that the idea of, with that example, let's say I trade 15 to 30 minutes every night of TV for reading. Right, 15 to 30 minutes doesn't sound like much, but just think, by the end of the year, that time put into really useless TV. Not that we can't watch a little TV every now and then. I'm just saying this is for me personally. Useless TV towards personal development, learning about my craft, fitness, skills, speaking, just growth is that's the type of stuff I read. Think of the difference to me in 1 year by changing that one habit or making it more difficult to turn on the TV to help further that commitment to read the amount of books that I've set a goal to achieve.
Right. And if that is a goal that you have, then again, you're setting a high level of commitment and persistence to inch closer to that goal every day.
Absolutely.
So that does bring us into the third point, which is from a book.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Crazy I get an idea from a book, I know.
And it's called
The Slight Edge.
So the slight edge, tell us why that is our point number 3.
Man, anybody listening, if you're interested at all in what we're talking about, I recommend maybe hit pause for a second and go by The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
But come right back.
And then come right back, right? Commit to finishing the podcast here and the point. But The Slight Edge, I mean, it's been out for a little while. It's not one of the classics from 100 years ago that I like to read, those ones. More recent than that, I think in the early mid-2000s maybe he wrote it. And the whole concept of the book is that our goals are going to be met through the little things that we do every day, right? And this talk about this massive extreme commitment, that takes us further away from our goals. It takes us into the land where we give up and they're not achievable. The whole concept of the book is that your goals are going to be little by little. The slight edge is those little things that you're going to do every day. And for me, the perfect example would be the TV for reading. That's a great example of a slight edge, right? It's just a small little thing when you look at it, but then you look at the result over the course of even one calendar year, and you've gotten this extremely different result. And you didn't do it all at once. You didn't do it by setting a goal that I'm going to somehow carve out 12 hours a day to read, and I'm just going to be unstoppable even when I'm like my head nodded into the book and everything, right? This too much commitment, too big. It takes us further away from the goal. So over and over, how do you create these little slight edges in your life, in your fitness, in your health, with your goals? For me, education, with the reading and growth, because it's by finding those slight edges and acting them out that you're going to ultimately achieve your greatest success.
Well, and I think that came with the quote that we talked about, that we tend to dramatically overestimate what we can do in one day, 1 week, 1 month.
Yeah.
And we dramatically underestimate what we can do in a year. But
yes,
you're going to do that throughout the whole year. So if you set a goal to read 30 or 40 books and you read nothing until December 2nd, well, now it's going to get pretty miserable. And if you're actually going to keep, it's just not going to happen.
Yes.
And it's the same with the other goals. It's the little things, like you said, that you do every day. So if your goal is a leaner body weight, it's what you are going to be doing every day that's going to make it. And that's going to allow you to make those slight adjustments. There's a birthday party, but it's what you're doing consistently every single day that, all of a sudden you realize that you've made quite a bit of progress and you're doing well. It helps you with that commitment, with that persistence, but it's not just doing it all at once.
And that gets into the culture of wanting, instant results. And that's what he talks about as well in the book, is having the courage, having the commitment to stick with what you've determined your slight edge to be, even when you can't see any results from it. Right. You know what I mean? I don't one night get it right and not watch TV and read instead, and I wake up in the morning a genius. Like, you know what I mean? I wake up and just my whole life has changed because I read for 15 minutes instead of watching hockey highlights. Like, and then since it's like, well, that didn't work.
That didn't work. I'm never reading again.
Right. And it's like, I'm just going back to what I was doing before. That didn't do it for me. It's like, you got to commit to these things for a long, long time before you get some real tangible results from them, whether it's an idea, right, or a thought, or just something you're going to put in practice with your life. You learn something, and then all of a sudden, now the slight edge, accumulating that momentum of the habit, will now be like, over time, it's like, wow, my life is totally different, whatever that looks like, again, to each individual, your relationship with your spouse, your fitness, your health, your career, whatever it could be, it's going to come out of the slight edge.
And I think one of the biggest revelations for me was to expect it to be difficult.
Yeah.
Expect it to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's when you think it's going to be easy, or you have you read a great book, or you have a really super day of you ate really nutrient dense food. You had a great workout. That's not the usual. I
Yes.
felt like working out. I felt like going and doing all of this prep, and
Yes.
you expect it to be difficult every single day. And so on the days where it's not quite so hard, it's like, oh, bonus. But then you expect it's going to be difficult again. So you continually, I liked your analogy on the little course corrections. That when you're driving, you don't just grip that steering wheel and hold it in one place, and I remember actually learning to drive and my dad telling me that, don't look right at the front of the vehicle and hold the steering wheel completely still. You got to look a little ways ahead and you make little adjustments. And I think that's a really good analogy for getting to your goals. Is, you kind of glance at where you are. You got to look to where you want to go. You got to make little course corrections, but expect that road isn't going to be, beautiful, like brand new pavement the whole way. That is just,
and you can just fall asleep and get there.
It's going to be rough. There's going to be washboard. Sometimes you're driving on gravel.
Some weather.
Maybe it gets to be minus 35. Somebody's on a bike on the side of the road, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Well, I think
you have to expect it's going to be hard, and it's going to be hard every single day.
Yes.
But that is the empowering thing as you get closer and closer to your goal, is realizing I can consistently do hard things and I can feel really good about it. And on that note, I am going to shout out Lena.
Hit me.
Okay, so we have a student, Lena. Hopefully you're listening. And pushing those heavy sleds has been a challenge for Lena, a really tough challenge, physically, mentally. And the last 2 classes, Lena's been coming for quite a while. And she grabs that sled and she runs. And it was flying across the gym today.
Yeah.
And it's taken her a long time to inch towards that, but to watch her do that, to see the empowerment that she can do hard things. It has been hard every single time she's done it.
Sleds are never going to be easy.
It's not going to defeat her again, though.
Yes.
And that's, I think, the attitude you've got to take towards your goals. Is there may be times where, even reading 30 or 40 books, whatever you set your mind to, there might be times where you really don't feel like reading. I know that's probably sounds odd to you.
I don't know what that feels like.
But you read a few more pages. You get that in, and I think that's for me was the tipping point. Is just accepting it's going to be really hard. It's going to be difficult every single day. I'm still going to do it. And that is empowering.
Well, it's funny you mentioned her name with the sleds, because actually too, winding it all the way back to the bike riding in the winter, and maybe people are laughing at me and can't understand why I wouldn't take the car. Guess who is also riding their bike in the wintertime to work?
Double shout out to Lena.
So I have inspired her to do something challenging as well. And we have this little thing going where she's like messaging me like, man, cold one this morning. And it's like, it just makes me laugh. Right. She's riding her bike now too. So, a lot of the times when you go after these goals and you commit to be your best self and achieve something a little bit more, more, the idea is it's not just what you get, it's what you give.
Absolutely.
Right? And you will, whether that's, inspiration or maybe encouragement or a quiet belief in other people that, hey, maybe I can do something like that too, And I know John Maxwell with leadership says you can only lead people as far as you're willing to go, right? Yourself as the leader. So does that mean that again, I'm doing crazy things, right? Or no, of course not. Does that mean I expect everybody now to be geared up and riding their bike down to the gym like me?
Yeah, 50 kilometers, 18 kilometers out of town. It's not going to happen. Ain't going to happen, coach. Nope.
It's like you raise the ceiling a bit for others by raising it yourself. Absolutely. Right? And I think maybe wrapping up the slight edge concept is there is a quote in the book that I really like, where it's not really what we want to hear, but it makes sense. He says, you got to realize when it comes to goals, you're going to be off course most of the time. I believe that's his exact words, right? I'd have to, but it's like, you're going to be off course most of the time. So like the driving, like you mentioned, right? Goals are like driving. It is constant corrections, constant vigilance, while knowing where you are driving your car. The goal doesn't change, right? Who gets in the car and has no idea where they want to end up? I'd say that's pretty rare, right? So it's a problem if you're changing your goal anytime things gets tough. But, to drive a car, it is constant adjustments, constant little changes to stay in your lane and get to your destination safely, right?
So if that's really what you want, that's really your goal, then you just keep making little course corrections, but that's still where you're headed.
You're committed, you're paying attention. And like you say, you have an off day, little course correction, not give up, not change the destination, right? And I think that really is a great way to put up goal setting. People defeat themselves because they expect perfection. People defeat themselves because they expect maybe no challenge. But those things, the challenge is part of any goal that's going to make you grow. And if you're willing to stay the course, make some small corrections on the day-to-day, you will eventually get there.
So you got to be committed. You got to be persistent. You got to be willing to change your environment. And then you got to just keep making those little slight course corrections.
You got to leverage the slight edge.
Boom,
and
baby.
That is how you get the goals, baby. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Hopefully this helps you with goals this time of the year. I urge you, if you're struggling right now, that's good. Don't give up. Maybe make some adjustments based on things that you've taken today, and let's get to the next level in 2024. Also, last thing I will say, if you want more help on this, I have a course that is ready to go. It is called Find Your Chickens. If you want to have any idea of what that actually means,
and why there's chickens,
it is in the course right at the start to make it make sense. If you need more help and a set system that you can get a little more clarity in your life and start setting some goals and achieving them and getting to the next level, it could be for you. Please click the link in the video here and you can learn more about it. Contact me. I might even give you a discount code, and have yourself an incredible day.